So, what exactly do you mean when you say, what do you mean?
I do not understand this. This really confuses me.
What's that supposed to mean?
Literally.
What's that supposed to mean?
What's that supposed to mean?
I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about?
What's that supposed to mean?
Cultural anthropologist Ujwal Kalgood and Motive Base president Jason Partridge will tell you that perception and meaning are the primary pressure points that shape and create the world we live in.
Inconceivable! You keep using that word.
Let's explore why meaning matters.
I don't think it means what you think it means.
Now, here's your host, Erin Trafford.
Hello, welcome back into the show, Why Meaning Matters, where we dissect cultural beliefs, myths, and norms, and we're unpacking them to help you understand how meaning impacts the market, our behavior, what we value as people, what we do as consumers and spend our money on. Now, here's something I think we're going to talk about today that's, I don't know, I guess we can say it's free. It's a little bit free because we all have access to it. But every Friday, we're recording this on a Friday, by the way, too. Every Friday, I inevitably wake up and like the first thought that crosses my mind is, tomorrow is Saturday, maybe I can sleep in. It's always the first thought I have. I don't have to wake up at 5:30 unless my kids wake me up. And I know I'm not alone in thinking about that. And something I want to ask you guys about this very specifically, because I think I've seen a shift, especially since the pandemic, about talking about a good night's sleep. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you guys, but in my neck of the woods, it's almost become a status symbol. And I don't know if it's because I hang around a lot of, 30-something moms, or a lot of my clients have young kids or what have you. But, how you doing today? And then it's, wow, I slept last night, is usually one of, the typical responses. Has there been a shift in meaning behind sleep?
Yeah. It's a great topic, and there has. I mean, I'll start with one, tolerance. So what does that mean? There's been so much talk in the last couple of years about all these supplements and drugs, and I'm going to call them drugs in general, but supplements in particular, everything from melatonin to just vitamin supplements and so on. So there's been a lot of talk about this. What do I do in order to improve my sleep or fall asleep faster, have deeper sleep? And people have tried all sorts of things, some over the counter or a lot over the counter, some prescription. But now what's happened is that we're coming out of that 2-year phase where we're actually seeing a big concern emerging about whether people are sort of building a tolerance for sleep aids and how that might affect them in the long term. So now suddenly people are realizing, hang on a second, this is not sustainable for me long term. I can't be popping certain pills just to help me sleep. I need more natural solutions. And suddenly there's this realization that the natural solution doesn't involve popping a natural pill. It involves popping 0 pills. In fact, it involves eating better. All the good old things that our parents told us, right? Eat better, exercise, go for walks, don't stare at the TV. Now it's don't stare at your phone just before bed, all of that stuff. And I think that's very interesting that it's all gotten muddled into this fear of building a tolerance for sleep aids.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of a chicken and an egg thing going on because, even from this idea of thinking about tolerance and the role of something artificial helping with the act of sleeping has risen in kind of awareness, and the question has basically risen in culture as people have become more aware of kind of the holistic impact of the choices we make leading to a better or worse night's sleep, right? And I think that, if you go back and you look at, 10 years ago and you looked at a typical kind of place that sold mattresses, they sold mattresses, right? Now, if you go and you look at a place that sells mattresses, they sell mattresses. They sell 18 different types of pillows. They sell a special pillow that goes between your legs. They sell sound machines that, play white noise in the background. They've started to expand. They sell tools that measure the quality of your sleep as you go through the night, right? So the commercial kind of application of sleep has gone away from something that we lie on, that we sleep, to a more kind of inclusive and holistic approach to saying, let's study how we sleep, let's think about how we sleep, let's create an environment that is more helpful towards helping us sleep. Now, what has driven that, right? Like, is it the kind of the idea that we've become more aware of the impact of the food that we're eating? Is it that we've thought about the impact of exercise and how it's playing things out? I started working out at a gym, and the first question that the personal trainer had is, how many hours a night do you sleep? And I'm like, why? And he's like, because how you sleep really plays a role in how you recover from the workouts that we're basically doing. So here is this app that I want you to take a look at, where you are thinking about the things that Ujwal just mentioned, which is the types of food that you're eating, putting down your phone an hour before you go to sleep, and actually turning off all screens and reading a book because your sleep will be better. All of these things are not just linked to sleep now, they're actually linked to the choices that we're making with exercise, to the food that we're eating, to all these other different aspects of our lives. So as, kind of consumers are thinking more about kind of the holistic choices they're making, it's just natural that sleep has risen in the kind of the conversation and the narrative, because it is so important to how we live our lives, but also how we basically recover from all these aspects of life that happen when we're awake.
It's so funny because I feel like a lot of the things that we've talked about, really, there's a thread here of us simplifying the act of basically biohacking what our bodies should naturally be doing anyway, right?
100%.
A healthy body is going to have good hormonal regulation, we'll have healthy teeth, we'll have healthy sleep, we'll have all these healthy things, but that we're at this shift where we're learning how to remember that. And the market is adapting, right? So something that's occurring to me as you're saying this is, what are all of these companies, and I won't name any names, but like that sell the sleep aids and all of these things, how are they going to be called to adapt to this return to this holistic view of sleep being a bodily function versus something that requires supplementation?
Yeah, one of the challenges that I think everybody has right now is, if you think about this notion of holistic sleep and worrying about tolerance to all these sleep aids, fundamentally what the shift is we have gone from a culture of worrying about tonight's sleep to a culture about worrying about sleep in general, right? Our holistic sleep hygiene. That's the shift. And the problem is that you will struggle to find a company that demonstrates that today. The holistic approach to sleep in the future, sleep in general, and the impact of sleep on our overall health and well-being, as opposed to, because all the solutions are targeted solutions. It's kind of like, it's the same tension that exists in healthcare in general right now between sort of a reductionist approach, right, versus a holistic approach to health, where the reductionist approach says, oh, you have a pain in your knee, it must be something to do with the knee, where the holistic approach says, what else could it be? So in essence, that's what's happening in sleep, and that's a big shift. And with that shift is also coming a connection to pain. And this, of course, is a huge can of worms, because obviously 100 million people, I recently read this, I was shocked. More than 100 million people in the US alone live with chronic pain. I think that's shocking.
So let me just ask the stupid question. So what we're seeing is this concurrent return to holistic concepts of health. We have stopped thinking about the end of our nose and started looking more broadly at what sleep is doing, while at the same time, culturally, we're experiencing more pain than we have ever felt.
Exactly.
That feels like there's a lot going on there. So, let's bring that down to ground level. So we are in pain and we're not sleeping. What is that like? When we look at talking about those, the planetary metaphor that we've been using throughout the show,
Yeah.
Is sleep pulling pain closer to it, or is pain becoming the impetus for making sleep more of an issue? Like, what's the driving force here?
Yeah, the thing is, they're both in each other's universes. Because
Okay.
in this particular case, we're looking at the sleep universe. What I can tell you is that, and just to build on that statement you said earlier, Erin, not only are we looking at health and sleep more holistically and living with more pain, we're also living in an environment where we are eating less healthy foods. We are living in an environment where we're struggling to drink water. We are struggling to have nutritional intake that is balanced. And what sleep is telling us is that all of these struggles are close to the sun, right? They're in the solar system, i.e. the consumer realizes that, hang on a second, if I'm living with pain, that too bears a connection to sleep. And again, it's a chicken and an egg, right? I don't know if what comes first, but the point is that it bears a connection. And so do the drugs I take, whether it's for pain or for sleep. So the drugs bear a connection. And so does the food I eat and the nutrition I get and all of this other stuff. To me, that's a big shift, and it's a fascinating shift. And it's accelerating very quickly.
Let me ask you a question, Uj. Let me ask you a question. Because even the way that you're talking about it right now, it's almost kind of like there's like a tension that exists, right? Where on one side of the equation, we've got a group of consumers that is realizing that we can't just be reactionary, right? We can't just take a pill to solve a problem now. We need to actually think about our overarching kind of habits and routines in order to proactively kind of live a better life. And as a result, my sleep will be better. Now that presents an opportunity because maybe I'm replacing the sleep aid that I'm using with another supplement that from a long-term standpoint basically it really facilitates and helps me be healthier. Maybe what I'm doing is I'm taking a vitamin regimen that I feel is actually kind of aiding me, but I'm taking what my sleep aid is now the vitamins I take in the morning instead of the sleep aid I'm taking at night, right? So that's the tension that exists on one side. Now the tension on the other side is there are a group of consumers that are reacting because they are trying to overcome this notion of pain, and they're exploring and they're looking for new types of solution. Is that fair, Uj, in regards to kind of thinking of it as almost kind of different people on different end of a tug of war?
I think so, and I think that tug of war is headed in a direction that's in favor of those who are starting to realize that there's a holistic relationship here. And I think the pain piece is a significant one because obviously in the US in particular, it is deeply intertwined with the culture of addiction just because of the opioid addiction crisis and everything else that surrounds it, right? And so there are a lot of people that are struggling with sleep, and they're struggling with sleep because they're also struggling with pain. And pain medications, at least traditional pain medications, they don't fit into this mold of thinking about health holistically, which is where
what are they turning to, Uj?
Yeah.
What are they turning to?
That's exactly what I think our next episode is going to be about, right? Because we're going to talk about cannabis, a huge wave hitting all of us with the realization that we have so many applications.
Yeah, so that extra vitamin might actually be a gummy bear, right? Like that's actually where we're probably going at this point. Okay, so let's put a pin in this one and revisit all of this through the lens of cannabis, because I think you're right. We need a whole episode just to unpack what's happening with the meaning of that. This has been Why Meaning Matters. Please share this show with your network. Make sure you hop on over to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review, like and subscribe, and follow us on whatever podcast platform you choose to listen to your shows on. And if you have a comment for us, please send us an email at hello@storystudionetwork.com. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Why Meaning Matters with Ujwal Arkulgud, Jason Partridge, and your host, Erin Trafford.
Inconceivable! You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Why Meaning Matters is produced for Motive Base and the Story Studio Network by Eye Contact Productions.